Good morning. My name is Chris Byrne and I'm a director with Summit Security Services. Today I'll be hosting our monthly InfraGard Domestic Terror Watch segment. Our segment this month takes us in a different direction, focusing on the increased influence of intellectual property theft and the influence these violations have on the American public and businesses. The World Intellectual Property Organization defines IP as creations of the mind, inventions, literary and artistic works, symbols, names, images, and designs used in commerce. IP is divided into two categories: industrial property, which includes inventions, patents, trademarks, industrial designs, and geographic indications of source, and two, copyright, which includes literary and artistic works such as novels, poems, and plays, films, musical, and artistic works. The National Director of Intelligence, James Clapper, provided testimony to the Senate Committee of Armed Services on the Worldwide Threat Assessment, referring specifically to intellectual property. Mr. Clapper provided insight into how some of America's largest technology and defense contractor companies discovered they had been the targets of efforts to penetrate networks and acquire proprietary information. In these instances, source code repositories were targeted in an attempt to gain access and potentially modify many of the contents. The U.S. Customs and Border Patrol have also identified the trade in counterfeit and pirated goods for both national security and the U.S. economy. The CBP is actively trying to combat the trade and smuggling of illegitimate goods, as investigations have proven profits from these items funding criminal enterprises. The CBP has seized an increased number of counterfeit products that pose safety threats to American consumers, products ranging from batteries leaking mercury all the way through computer network components that can cripple critical infrastructure vital for national security. The Wall Street Journal has recently published articles focused on intellectual property, detailing the extensive counterfeiting of luxury retail items. It has been documented that these vendors can now sell fake merchandise through legitimate e-commerce sites with full product descriptions, marketing images, and logos. Consumers are falling prey to high-priced fakes that seem to be a deal at just a fraction of what the real item would cost. Recently, I had the opportunity to speak with Brendan McFeely, Senior Associate from Kane Kessler Law Firm in Manhattan, New York. Both Brendan and the other lawyers from Kane Kessler have a significant history in intellectual property prosecution and copyright infringement. Let's cut over to that segment to hear more about the rapid growth of intellectual property violations and how American businesses can protect themselves from intellectual property threats. Good morning. Sitting here with Brendan McFeely from Kane Kessler Law. Brendan, IGTV viewers are always interested in hearing from professionals who are focused on the enhancement of security of both national and economic interests. Recently, we have seen a wide variety of media releases from the Customs and Border Patrol website to the Wall Street Journal, all making mention of intellectual property infringement and violations. Why do you think this is such an important topic?
Well, Chris, one of the reasons that this is such an important topic right now is that, as most Americans are aware, we have moved much of the manufacturing operations of our biggest companies abroad, primarily to countries where intellectual property laws are still in a sort of Wild West state. And it will come as no surprise to our viewers that what I'm talking about specifically is China. One of the unintended effects of moving manufacturing to China to take advantage of cheap manufacturing is that it's very inexpensive over there for a pirate operation to set up quickly, knock off cheap versions of American consumer products and consumer goods, be they handbags and accessories, be they kitchen implements, even pharmaceuticals, and get in, get out fast, manufacture enough product to send over to the U.S. for profit, and disappear before anyone can take any action.
Wow. What are some of the common industries that are currently being affected?
Well, we see it in media. This is lessened to a certain extent because the traffic in counterfeit DVDs and CDs has dropped considerably because of the prevalence of online pirating now. We see it in hard consumer goods. We actually represent a number of consumer goods companies that make everything from throw blankets to kitchen implements, and the routine nature with which these things are pirated and knocked off in China is absolutely astounding. And in my practice, we've even seen it in the pharmaceutical industry, where it's possible for unscrupulous manufacturers in China to manufacture everything from counterfeit Viagra to counterfeit antibiotics.
Wow. So what are some of the trends that are being used against U.S. businesses?
Well, that's really sort of an interesting question. What we see, terrifyingly for some manufacturers, is that even their own factories with whom they have contractual relationships abroad will run illicit manufacturing operations, sending the genuine goods out the front door and the counterfeit goods out the back door. What we end up with, of course, is this epidemic of illegal manufacturing in Asia. Overall quality of the products that are coming to the United States are extremely substandard. And the prevalence of internet marketing now has made it possible for these pirates to, using certain websites, among them are one website called DHgate and another one called Alibaba, yes, and 40 Thieves, would be an accurate observation there, to contact directly small-time retailers who operate using Amazon.com, who operate using eBay, who simply setting up their own website, inexpensive counterfeit versions of genuine popular goods.
Wow. So how can individuals and companies take an active posture in combating these intellectual property violations?
Well, there are a lot of steps that you can start taking early. Focusing again, of course, on the China issue. Obviously, the goods don't get into the country unless they're imported into the country. And this is where having a robust intellectual property portfolio here in the U.S. can come in handy. Among the very useful services that are offered by the Department of Customs and Border Patrol is the ability to record your intellectual property rights if they've registered. So if you take the steps to register a trademark, which we do strongly recommend to most of our clients, or all of our clients really in these fields, that they have strong trademarks that are registered, or to even register copyright in works of creative authorship, which can include such things as really the packaging for the goods and photographs that are used on the packaging for the goods, all the way down to instruction manuals that are included with the goods. All of these things, once registered as a registered copyright, or once you have achieved trademark registration, can be registered with Customs and Border Patrol, which will allow the authorized importer to give a list of authorized importation sites, warehouses, transshipment, and the like, to Customs. And then that will give Customs agents the ability to compare and contrast shipping manifests when they are inspecting shipments to determine whether what's being shipped is a good that's either subject to copyright registration or trademark registration in some way, and will allow those customs agents to then interdict goods that they believe are not genuine, which has been a very, very useful tactic for a number of our clients. It can be time consuming. We do run the particular service out of our office from time to time, and we also engage investigative services who have the manpower to put boots on the ground and interact directly with customs agents at a more factual and less legally oriented level.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. How can investigative services really be effectively utilized?
Well, you can task your investigators with a series of jobs, including keeping an eye on these pirate websites to determine whether or not there are pirates abroad who are trying to ship counterfeit goods into the U.S. You can task your investigators with interacting directly with customs agents at the major ports which I know many of the larger investigative services do offer that service. Basically work with those people, your investigators, to, once you've firmed up suspicions about particular importers, do sample buys so that you can get your hands on a potentially counterfeit piece of merchandise, have it shipped to a friendly jurisdiction. We do most of our operating, for example, out of New York. We prefer to, when necessary, bring suit in New York. Mm-hmm. So shipment by a counterfeiter or a pirate or some retailer offering counterfeit or pirate goods into New York would subject them to jurisdiction in New York, and it would allow us then to sue in New York and have very favorable jurisdiction and venue, and be in our own home court. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to do that through your own firm, so that's another instance where you hire an investigator to set up a dummy company to order in the goods that you need.
Wow. Well, that's some great insight. Thank you so much for your time.
Been a pleasure.
That's all we have for this month's edition of InfraGard Domestic Terror Watch. I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to Brendan McFeely from Kane, Kessler. He provided some insight into how American businesses and citizens alike can reduce the threat of intellectual property violations. The entire segment can be seen on the New York Metro InfraGard website and the Summit Security YouTube page. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next month.